Hello and welcome to another episode of The Modern Nerd. I'm Tim Bolin,
I'm Dan Smirch.
And I'm GJC.
and we are, as always, massive nerds. So this week, really, we don't have a ton to go over. We're going to just keep you up on all the shows that are going on right now. No special content or anything like that. No random questions that we're going to have answered. We're just going to go over Miss Marvel, Obi-Wan, and The Boys if we have time. If not, we'll just chunk the last 4 episodes of The Boys together, but we'll see how it goes. We're going to try and really keep this one tight and keep it to an hour for you guys, so you're not just sitting there bored and twiddling your thumbs. But as always, how you doing? What how you guys been? What you watching? What you playing? Hello there. Any new things happening? Anybody watching anything new?
Yeah.
What you got?
I finished Shredder's Revenge. Unlocked Casey Jones.
Nice.
So I'm gonna try to do a playthrough with him. He's kind of cool. I understand why he's the unlockable character, because literally his stats are equal to Leonardo's, who's like the most balanced character, like 2 stars on every single trait, type of balance. But he's the same as Leonardo, except for he has 1 extra point distributed on his reach. And you're like, okay, so he's just a broken character. Great. Cool. And his special fills up the whole screen. You're like, okay, so he's just a broken character.
Objectively the coolest. I gotta see. You know what I mean?
I went back because when I first came to this country, I don't think I spoke English perfectly, but I definitely watched Ninja Turtles, right? So I went back to watch some of his scenes, and I realized how freaking psycho the guy was in the cartoon. This guy was as over the top, crazy vigilante as it came. He was like a direct. I never realized how big of a parody. Maybe as a kid, I didn't think about how big of a parody he was. But looking back on him, this guy is freaking psycho.
That's awesome.
He's like a Batman. Think about it. He's like a Batman or a Daredevil type character, and he's just out of control.
Wearing a hockey mask with a hockey stick.
Right.
And he's wearing sweatpants. I never realized how weird that was. He's just fucking wearing sweatpants, running around,
just some
fighting crime. Oh man.
Hobo with a shotgun.
So budget. I didn't even think about how. It never occurred to me how weird that looked. But looking back at it, you're like, what the.
It was classy.
Yeah.
It was classy. I loved it. Yeah, I haven't really done or watched or done anything. I'm probably gonna do Shredder's Revenge. It's on Game Pass, so I may just end up getting it on the Xbox for free. And if I really love it and wanna do the multiplayer aspect with y'all, I can probably get it again on the Switch and stuff like that. So we can see how it goes from there. Other than that, yeah, no news is good news, I guess. Let's dive into this. Let's start off this week's episode with Miss Marvel. I just watched that. I just finished it. I think George here just finished it as well. Dan, you watched it last night, probably. Yeah. So with this episode, we dive a little bit more into the origin of the Bangles and her powers and her family history, and apparently spoilers 3, 2, 1. Okay, spoilers. The clandestine, the Jinn, if you will, in this episode where we talk a little bit more about that. So you get some good history there and a little bit more depth in the character and her kind of struggling with coming to terms with her abilities and how to use them and how she can be perceived as good and not someone who is messing up the community for all of her people and everyone in there, which was the center really of this episode. You have them first officially now saying the Department of Damage Control, which was obvious because we saw the DODC before. And so, we see them come into the mosque looking for Kamala, but they don't know who that is yet. So, and you have her sister, her cousin,
Nakia,
pull the jargon she heard from Law and Order, and it worked. So
dude, that's not jargon, dude. You hold on
I know,
to that fight, dude.
Yeah. So it was you get to see her kind of step into her power a little bit more as a board member and everything, and come into the role, and spoilers again. You find out that this woman was who I thought was her great grandmother is not her great grandmother. It's just a friend of her great grandmother's, and they're from a different dimension. No, 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 no. And so they, appear to be all friendly and everything, telling her about the past, and it was pretty obvious that they were going to be revealed as like the villains and the ones who were like, no, you must do this even though it could destroy the universe and blah 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 blah. And so that kind of came about at the end of the episode, and overall I enjoyed it. It paced along fairly well with the other two episodes. It kept things moving forward and didn't kind of slow down the main plot, which I thought was nice. It'll be nice to see her put on the full uniform that we see, that we all know her to have, because she got the eye, the face mask thing in this episode from Bruno, and so that was nice to see. But I mean, there really wasn't a ton of movement really in this. It was good. I like still hearing about her family, the history, and everything. So enjoyed it, and I still left me wanting more. But we'll kind of see what happens in the next one. Dan?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have much to say. It felt like a departure from the kind of original and fun first two episodes, and now here you're dealing out the Marvel tropes, or Marvel trope there, Marvel trope here, Marvel trope there, blah blah blah, blah. And so it felt like a step back for me, but I do absolutely recognize you have to drive the plot forward, and so we can get to the good stuff. But just this one happened to be full of the reveal of her to her friend, like, you've been hiding this from me, and like why are you doing this? Why are you running away? Like, what's just a lot of just general things that to drive the plot forward, you have to sacrifice logic, apparently. Like, what are you doing? Like, okay, fine, I guess this is how it has to unfold. They did set the bar high, at least in my opinion. Just it felt so fun and fresh, and this just felt like back to the old Marvel grind of typical shenanigans. And but hopefully this is just the low hanging bridge to the higher upside of the valley that will keep the keep things going as the standard they set for the first two episodes. It's fine. It is what it is. I'm looking forward to more episodes with less typical shenanigans.
Agreed. Well said. George?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. Honestly, compared to I agree with what Dan says as far as it being like a very typical Marvel stuff and tropes and whatever, but I think maybe I enjoyed it more because it was in this world that we've come to kind of know a little bit better, and you get to see the characters that you've kind of grown attached to go through this. And a lot of stuff we saw coming. Obviously, you knew that eventually Nakia would find out. You knew that she was just gonna disappoint, quote unquote, her parents again. Cool little cultural looks into what it's like to have a Pakistani wedding. I think it's kind of cool. That was enjoyable. Cool. And I think it's a kind of like all weddings and maybe all celebrations culturally, it's it felt like they were giving us a peek into their home, and it was kind of nice. What's funny thing is how you ever watch you dive into a random video on YouTube or whatever, and you suddenly realize there's a whole genre because the algorithm latches onto you, and there's a whole genre of different types of videos that you didn't even know, and all these different videos suddenly start popping up. So one time I watched a video of somebody getting pulled over by a cop, and pretty much giving him the business. And now that I didn't realize how big of a genre it was, and then when Nakia had that moment where she's like, no search without a warrant, I was like, this is just like those YouTube videos, dude, because people freaking give cops the business, dude. Like cops are like, man, I'm just like trying to do my job. He obviously like a lot of times like you're like the cops like I'm just trying to like do my job, but like people are like firm on their rights, dude. And I mean, bravo, it is your rights. But I thought it was just a funny little thing that Nakia was like, no search without a warrant. I was like, that's right, you got to stand up for your right, dude. Like, doesn't matter if you're like the FBI or a regular street cop or Department of, like you have a constitutional right. It's just funny that she like pulls it right out. It was like, no. Yeah. And also it's like they're like, like in general, brown people, Muslim people, Indian people, people who are immigrants are just generally marginalized, and they don't, sadly to say, they don't necessarily always know, their rights. And it's like, I'm sure as like a Muslim American, they understand what it's like to be harassed, not just by like people in general, but like the government, like just because they're always, like the typical villain trope of a big government being like, oh, we're going to target all the mosques and all the like, places where Muslims like congregate in community centers. It's just like, it's something I think, sadly to say, they probably have lived with their entire lives, so it's nice to see like Nakia. And also I'm happy for her as a character because she's getting a lot of growth in this. This is like the most growth that she's gotten in the show. She's like found out about what's going on with Kamala, and she also got elected to become a board member, so good for her. Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that, a little bit more of the political aspect of her, journey getting elected, because it was intriguing that the way that she talked to her uncle, I guess probably Kamala's
Mr.
dad, in the last episode was like great. She's like, you fought so hard to give us this future. Are you going to now stand here and vote against me and deny us of this future of your daughters and your cousin and the strong women of your community? And he's just like,
that was very good.
He like just looks down like at his food. Like
anything else of it though, like I would have liked a little bit more of that. I think it would have been good to see a little bit more of that from this show, because they diving into so many issues, and again, you don't want to, I guess, bog down the main story with all of the side stories, but that's like an important message to everyone, to women, to women of color, to everything, that you can do more and don't have to necessarily stay within. I don't know.
Down with the patriarchy.
So, yeah, down with us.
Down with the patriarchy.
I would have liked a little bit more of that, but I mean, I get it. There was a lot that happened in this episode. So, diving into the backstory, so something had to go, but who knows what they even followed and wrote and cut and all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't have much else to say. You guys,
there was some fun action,
yeah,
like typical Marvel action.
Looking forward to more.
Yeah, I liked that we actually got some like fight scenes. I thought that was neat, and they weren't clean and neat and orderly. It was nice to see a little bit of clumsiness in there. She was a little bit more athletic than was presumed earlier, but it's fine.
Not so much a fight scene as it is her like just kind of like trying
defending,
to get away, kind of, and
which was good.
Well, she did finally like punch someone when it came to it, and then she punched all three of them. That was cool.
It was cool.
That was about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more of it and her develop that. So, where do you guys want to go from here? Do you want to do Obi-Wan and spend a chunk on that, or do you want to do The Boys?
I think we should end with Obi-Wan.
All right, so let's dive into that last episode of The Boys. You guys watched it, I think, more recently than I did, because I watched it last week, because I'm like a few hours ahead of you, so I had the time the day of the cast. But there was a big power shift and dynamic shift in this last episode, and changed the kind of story for a couple of characters going forward, because in the last one that we talked about, we had the reveal of Soldier Boy and that he was still alive and in the Russian control and everything like that, and they just sort of let him out, which was a little weird. They were just like, bah, and then he walked away. I'm like, oh, that's all that's it? You're not gonna okay, cool, I guess. Then you see a clip of him in the US, and he like havocs the living shit out of some building and like just destroyed everything with like his chest powers that he got that are new. And so
his chest
Um,
powers.
yeah, he was Havoc. You know, he had that same
Yeah, no,
explosion from his
totally, yeah,
chest.
yeah. Except it's more
Um,
just like one big explosion every time. It's kinda
yeah.
weird.
So, I mean, there's a lot that kind of happened in that episode, and it was a week ago for me. So the quick of the recap is they kind of found his ex-girlfriend. I don't remember her name. She was part of that super
Crimson
group.
Countess.
Crimson Countess. Oh, and did we get the backstory now? Was this the one that had the backstory of Grace in the army? Or was that the one before?
That was the one before.
Okay, so that
Mhm.
kind of ties into it because you see a
Yeah.
little bit more of them. I don't know if we talked about that last week very much, but you got to
Not a lot.
you got to see who Black Noir was, which I thought was a big deal. You saw him
Yeah.
put his mask on, and you saw how a young, what's his name? How he handled Black Noir. Fuck, what's his name? The main guy, the guy who ran Vought.
Oh, right.
I don't remember his name, but
Edgar.
he
Oh, yeah.
Edgar. How he basically was like, as like a black man, he spoke to another black man, being like, "Look, you can keep the mask on, or we can take it off and just see what happens." You know, let's
That young actor did a
him.
great impression of him. It was pretty
Yes.
good.
Yeah, that was real good. So I mean, we get, man, there was a lot that happened.
Yeah, I
liked
also
the
watched 4
episode.
and 5 together, so yeah,
They kind of just
learning.
they kind of meshed together. But I mean, go ahead. Give me
I
your
don't
thoughts.
know.
I'll
I
complete
don't.
mine.
Sorry. I wish I had more. I don't have. Sorry. All my thoughts are on Obi-Wan today. Which is rare. So okay. So let's see. So we got Crimson Contest, and we got QE messing around with his he's doing the temporary V now uh with Butcher, and everyone's like, everyone's like, I expect this from Butcher but not from you, and I'm just like, man, fuck you, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard out there for a dude fighting soups with like no with nothing to stand for but you're like measly little hands. I don't know. I get that it's a allegory for drug use, but but in that situation, it's not. I understand that they're feeling the effects, and then for Huey especially, unfortunately, he's literally like, I like the way I feel when I'm on it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's that is problematic, I suppose. But it's he is doing it for an actual reason and not just to feel good. And I really get annoyed at everyone being like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, he's protecting himself so that he doesn't die during these. Um, yeah, I don't that kind I don't know, that bothered me a little bit, but um uh I do. You know what I like? I like how we're finally getting some the stuff from Mother's Milk is it's great. It's a great character piece and
Yeah.
exploratory of his backstory that we haven't gotten a whole lot until now. We knew he was very motivated to do to help these guys, and that he really clearly did not want to work with Butcher again. And but he's doing it because it's in his bones. He kind of has to, and we're not seeing explicitly what happened. We see random flashes of scenes of him, and whatever it is went down. I mean, obviously, we know they've said it before, and they're going to say it probably again, that Soldier Boy killed his family. But we actually saw little quick glimpses of what happened, and his story is, to me, right now, the most compelling. What he's going through, and how he really wants to leave it behind, but he literally can't, and he was gonna take his daughter to go somewhere fun, and he just is like, I have to go. And you could see the actor's so good. You could see the pain in his face and the decision that he had to make. It's a really well written, well acted character, and that he has to come back to do this because he doesn't even feel like he has a choice. And that's good stuff. Um, I really am intrigued to see how things play out. I think I said again last week that I mean, God, uh, Homelander. He's he is now in this position of power. It's almost like he's dialed back the psychoness, and he's a little more contemplative and lurking. Like I keep waiting for him to do something, but he's made a lot of like calculated like decisions, not super calculated, mind
No.
you, but like more than he has in previous seasons. And that is calculating Homelander is somehow like scarier than like than the past versions of Homelander at this point. Anthony Starr, holy crap, dude! I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't know if we've had this good of a villain in TV history.
No.
He's so good, and the fact that you can understand where someone came from, how they became who they are, and why they are the person that they are. And like usually when you learn those kinds of things, you become empathetic to a character and you kind of like root for them in a way. There's so many villains that we've had, even some of the great Marvel villains I think that we've had. Some of the best ones are the ones where we learn their story and we become slightly empathetic to them. I think of Killmonger right away.
Yep.
We learn about Homelander and why he is who, and they made him this way in many ways, and you feel bad for him for a
Not
little
really.
bit,
Yeah.
for like a smidge of a second, and then we go right back to hating his guts, and that to me is a triumph in writing and storytelling of a villain, because that is a hard thing to do, and
Yeah.
I love everything about that's happening with him. I can't believe how well he's holding things together. I keep waiting for him to do something kind of like, just kind of tweak out and like do something silly, but he hasn't yet, and that's scary. He's doing everything he wants. I mean, you could tell he's annoyed. He said some offhanded comment to someone about like, now we have to worry about the stock prices and the blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and you can tell
He's-
he's getting frustrated there. So something's gonna give at some point. But
Oh yeah.
it's great to see him kind of like spread his wings and like do things that you knew he was always capable of doing, but he just wasn't there for one reason or another. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't really know what changed between last season and this season, besides like the death of Stormbringer,
Stormfront.
Front.
Stormfront. So that was a kind of interesting. It was like no one's really holding him back, I guess. Anyway, I love it, and I see how it progresses.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. I mean, man, the aspect with like A-Train and bringing that guy who was like over policing the black
Yeah,
neighborhoods
I was
and
gonna
brought
talk
him into
about
the
that. That was so
man.
funny.
And then
Oh
Blue
my
Hawks.
God, dude.
just started like fucking hitting people and going
Yeah.
crazy, like blatantly racist
It
and
was so
openly.
it's funny.
It was
Hit him with
fucked
two
up, man.
all lives matter. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, okay,
it was really
okay.
funny because I sent this article, I think from like Forbes or whatever, to our group chat about it, and I was like, it's funny because I was seeing on Twitter that like people who are like Republicans were like I liked everything Blue Hawk said until he said until he got to like a certain point in that speech, and I was like, dude, if you didn't like realize that this is like this guy is supposed to be
is
like
you.
this is you, and this is a satirical like view of what like I hate to say it, like what conservative right wingers like feel about like policing and Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. I was like, don't you realize this is the same type of stuff? Like, he's not a caricature, he's like a reflection of like of the reality of like your
He's
side of
too
the
real.
fence. And you're telling me that everything from the beginning of the speech until the point when he became very blatantly racist, that was like okay to say, then like you need to like check yourself and you don't need to see it. And they're like, well, I don't like the fact that like The Boys is like overly political now, and that this episode has suddenly become, this show has become so woke all of a sudden. I was like, what show have you been watching? And they're like, we don't like the fact that he like Homelander is like blatantly a copy of like Donald Trump. And you're like, if you didn't see that coming from like day one, then you need to like, have you been watching the same show?
Like it's been this way this whole time, dog. Like,
yeah, like I don't understand how like, and it's, sometimes have you ever like met someone or seen someone on and been like, are we seeing reality the same way? Like you question if people view like, are you seeing the same thing?
My God.
And how can you watch 4 seasons of this show and not realize like that this is like a very overtly political show? And are you just making that connection now?
Dude, the taco salads. The taco salads. Oh my God.
And we
dude.
talked about the
I was
Kendall
like-
Jenner Pepsi scene. Like, come on.
Oh
like,
my
if you
God.
didn't realize this is a political show, then you have not been watching the last 4 seasons. Like,
It's been this show is fantastic. And
I just wanted to point
is.
out one last thing that I think was kind of
please.
interesting, and I don't know how it's received by most people, but I think bravo to the showmakers for trying to do something different. Is like they started adding a lot of these weird like dream scenes with Kamiko and Frenchie, where they're like singing and they're musicals and like the reality is not really reality, these weird daydreams and stuff like that. I don't know how people like them. Some people might like them, some people not, but at least they're trying to do something with those two. So bravo, their character is moving forward. However medium that they want to move that relationship forward, I'm all for. I don't like whatever. Like I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it. It was okay. I'm fine with like what they did with it. At least they're trying to do something with those two, because I feel like sometimes those two don't really get like a lot of forward movement. They're kind of just like been forgotten on the side. And it's like, oh, well, you need somebody killed, and then she comes in and does some crazy shit, and that's it.
They've got so many characters, and all of them have a storyline, like a side story of some kind now at this point. Like Frenchie and like his Russian ex-mob boss lady, and like Kimiko's backstory.
Even Butcher and
like,
Maid
her
hooking
growing
up, which we saw from like day one of the season. Like you're like, they're gonna fuck by the end of the season. Like this is they don't put these two in scenes over and over again for them not to go and get it on. You know, like I'm sorry.
I did not see that coming at all. I'm sorry. I know how Butcher
oh my
feels.
fucking God.
No, dude, Butcher is like
Day
all
one.
anti, like ridiculous.
Oh, please.
Anti those sorts of
It's
things.
that
like,
it's that like angry sex type thing going on. You know, like that thing got going
I guess
on.
so. But
I don't know.
I didn't even think that she swung that way. I guess I didn't. Anyway. Oh, I guess she did.
Does it
But
all? Yeah.
I thought she kind of like moved on from men. Personally.
Well, she came out as bi, but then the studio or Vought made her come out as, they're like, we're not going to do bi, we're going to do gay because that's more
Sounds better.
marketable. And you're like, oh, that's ridiculous.
Also, it's a fair enough argument to say that Homelander could ruin all men for her, in my opinion. So
I mean, they for sure did stuff in the past.
But
For
like she said, she
sure, 'cause
never
they were
loved him.
united
Like
for
she
a long
hated
time.
Homelander
that's
from
what I'm
day
saying.
one.
Like if anyone could ruin men for her, it would be Homelander.
Oh, sure,
No, that's true.
sure.
So
One last bit,
They're like-
it is the ending of this episode where you've got that the confrontation between, man, it all comes to a head with Huey and Butcher and Mother's
Starlight's
Milk. They
there.
go to see Crimson Lady. What's her name?
Crimson Countess.
Crimson Countess.
Oh man, and
Crimson
Seth
Lady.
Rogen, dude, with a great cameo. Let's go,
That
my boy.
crazy cameo.
The
But
greatest.
they all go there.
Oh
No. And you're just like, oh, of course he's gonna finish that.
I love it,
fucking-
dude. I love it. Seth Rogen with this great cameo.
Oh
Well,
my God,
he's-
Seth
He had to do
producer.
it, right?
He's one of the producers of the show, so like he's
I
like,
love
yeah,
it.
let's do it.
Good
But
for him.
you
So
get
funny.
the moment where, you know, what's her name, Starlight comes in, so then Huey has to go off and kind of talk to her and like pull her away, and then you see that Butcher sort of betrays Mother's Milk, and like it broke my heart because he like he roofies him so that he'd pass out because he knows that no way in hell would Mother's Milk go for what he's gonna do. And I saw it coming because I'm like, well, that's the obvious thing, is like the weapon, there is no weapon that killed Soldier Boy. Now Soldier Boy is a weapon that could potentially kill and or remove, they don't know yet, remove the powers of Homelander. So, the the emotional moment also came when Starlight finds out that Huey knew about this plan the whole time, and his only defense was you weren't even supposed to be here right now. And so that's never a good way to kind of say you're sorry, because you're not really apologizing. But it's what this whole season is about, is basically become a means to an end. It's not about doing it the right way. It's not about the proper channels. It's about a means to an end. Like, they're tired of doing everything. They found out that they've been, betrayed and working for Soups the whole time, and so they're just like, fuck it, balls to the wall, let's do this thing, and then just went off. And now they're gonna, it makes you question if they don't have that moment where, it's like the only thing I can think of like it would be in Hunger Games, where, like, Snow and what's her name, and so, like, are they going to take down Homelander with Soldier Boy, but then Soldier Boy basically becomes the new Homelander because he's no less stable of a person and was way more upfront about it too. He had less qualms about just talking shit to women and being pretty much blatantly racist. Like, it doesn't seem like that's gonna end well. Which will keep the show going and give us a new antagonist if they do take him out. What if they team up? Like, and who knows what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's choices have been made, and
I always
regrets will happen in the future.
Yeah, I can't help but the hero and crime fighting philosophies of Michael Caine in the Batman series. I keep thinking, of him saying, "Well, they crossed the line." Well, you crossed the line first, sir. Like, that's kind of how I feel about this whole thing. It's very good. It's very compelling. It's very different. It's
I mean, there's no one that's good in this show. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the good people are the people we don't see. The good people are the people that are trying to defend the rest of humanity, and everyone with powers and against them is
maybe
fucked up in the
Mother's
head.
Milk.
He's a good,
Maybe Starlight, but even she, has had her moments.
Who knows?
Who knows? All right.
It's a good show, and I'm excited for it to come to a head in the next few episodes.
Yeah.
All right, we've got about a solid 30 minutes to talk about the series finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's I didn't think that they would be able to tie it up as well. I really did enjoy the way they tied it up. I think it felt emotionally hit the right notes. It took a really long time to get there, but they got there and it worked. It really did. I think editing could have been done a little differently, end with a different scene, maybe, blah, 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 blah. But that's neither here nor there. That's just me nitpicking at this point.
You're like, don't you want to stay for dinner? Like,
yeah, like I enjoyed it because it gave me what I wanted since that first interaction with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader in episode 4, where you see them fight. When I was a kid, I thought it was cool. It's like, and like his Obi-Wan's lightsaber in the hallway is not really doing great and everything like that because his powers is not super strong, but it's not. I went back and I've seen it a bunch of times since then, and all the lightsaber duels in the original trilogy are, they're fine, for what they are and for the times. But like after like the prequels and like all the cartoons and like all these things, like all these different action scenes have become so epic and awesome. And that final fight that they had in episode 3 was awesome. And in my opinion, I just want to talk about this for a minute. They have a battle in here, and it was so fucking cool for me to see the way these two went at each other. You saw Vader use his sabers in the earlier episodes a little bit, and it wasn't great. It was very stiff, as you would expect from someone who's half a giant walking robot. But in this episode, he was a lot more animated and moved a lot like they really played to each character's strengths in this fight scene, and it was in the dark and the sabers lit up and you could see their faces, and it was it was emotional and it had ups and downs and they're throwing things at him. When Obi-Wan's just standing there like this, just chucking rocks at Vader.
When did he become an
my
Earthbender?
Yeah,
God, it
when
was
did-
so cool.
Anyway,
When did
I'll-
Obi-Wan become an Earthbender?
Yeah,
I mean,
when
look,
did-
he's just
when-
throwing stones, man. He's lifting him with the
when
Force
Obi-Wan
and
becomes
throwing
that
him.
powerful with the Force? When did Obi-Wan all of a sudden get to Darth Vader levels of Force? That was like the whole
I mean, but
point.
that's the thing though. Is I think the
Because
scales
continuity doesn't
tipped.
matter in Star Wars.
No, I
that's
think the
why.
scales tipped because if you look at a lot of their battles, they're not about who's got the most power. It just looked more powerful because the emotional aspect of it came into play where he wasn't more powerful than him. Anakin just wasn't focused. Every time they fight, Anakin's never focused, so the battle is never really even. So it looked like it was more powerful than it was. It was a cool fucking visual, and I really loved this fight. And it looked a lot more like
So,
the Obi-Wan from the
also,
cartoons and everything.
like Darth Vader shrugging off boulders. Like what? That was really stupid to me.
I ended up rewatching that scene on my iPad because where I am, there's a lot of light, and so it didn't come through really well. When you look at it, not all of them are hitting him. He's breaking them with the Force. Like he's got like a Force field in front of him. But that I thought it was the showdown that was supposed to that people wanted since 1978, and I thought it was cool and it was a lot of fun. But no, you didn't care for that.
I got a lot
George,
to say.
you're up to bat. Go.
No, you go, George. I have so much to say. You go.
No,
you go
I'll let
first.
you go first.
Yeah.
Since you have so
So-
much to say.
Man, rant incoming, dude. Look. I come on the show, time to talk about Star Wars, and it ends up me trashing Star Wars, and I don't like that. I don't want to trash Star Wars. I like Star Wars. I want to be upfront about that. I like Star Wars. I love the original trilogy. But continuity doesn't mean shit to anyone. It doesn't matter what happens. Obi-Wan could all of a sudden, for example, have Darth Vader-like Force abilities, which has been Darth Vader's whole thing. He is really strong with the Force and can do things like pull an entire ship down and rip the entire doors apart with just 2 moves. He was super strong with the Force, more than most people. And then all of a sudden, Obi-Wan exhibits, arguably, in my perspective, more Force ability than Darth Vader has ever displayed, pulling up dozens of boulders and big rocks to chuck at him at once. It doesn't matter because you can just Star Wars fans will just find a way to explain these things, like how these weird random things occur. Like, oh, she got stabbed in the chest, and she can survive, unlike Qui-Gon Jinn, because it's a dark Force thing that they can use to keep themselves alive, which I guess they kind of talked about in the prequels, and I'm just like, okay, it doesn't matter. They could have chopped her head off, and she could have lied down, and the Force could have sewn her head back on. It's like, oh, she can only do that because of this reason. They literally, it's like the Lost writers are writing these continuity scenes for the Force. Like, oh, we'll just have this happen. Now, have they been able to do this before? Does it matter where this lines up in the timeline, and if they discovered this? Nah, it doesn't matter. We'll just let them do a thing. It's fine. No one cares. They'll come up with a reason for it because everyone loves this stuff. They all come crawling back. It bothers me. I think maybe even more so now because we have stuff like, thank God, we have stuff like Marvel, where continuity matters, where something happens that makes sense, so that someone within these abilities can do this sort of thing. And then you have Star Wars, where it's like nothing matters. People are just gonna do shit, and we don't have to explain it. People will try to find a way to explain it for us if they want. Even if they do, we don't really care. It breaks my heart. I wish they cared about this stuff as much as we seemingly care, because we do. And I was I mean, that's cool. Fine. I mean, you're clearly who the kind of people Star Wars caters to, and I mean, I guess I am too because here I am talking about it. I mean, I don't like ripping on Star Wars. I want to be able to come here and talk about how much I loved everything. And I want to be clear that this was not a bad show. I think it was good, and I think the actor for Princess Leia was great and literally lit up the screen anytime she was on it. I wanted to be where Tim was. I wanted to be how Tim felt during that final fight scene. Um, I couldn't get there. I couldn't. I was too bogged down by all these things that I should have been feeling, and maybe that's on me, and I understand that. But I just wasn't there. I kept getting pulled away from it, and the Boulder thing in particular. Um, that all that being said, I could talk more about how it didn't bother me, but I'm going to stop because I felt that way right up until the moment where it was. Yeah, I will say it was cool to see Obi-Wan. I think this is like the first time we see Obi-Wan take a truly offensive
Yeah.
approach to fighting in the entire time we've seen him fight. Every time we've seen him fight, we've seen him fight as a Jedi, and this time he surprised Anakin by going on the real offensive, shown in its final beat by him literally like lunging forward. And the first time I ever seen him
Oh,
do that as well, and hitting a Darth Vader in the helmet and slicing him open, and us seeing Anakin and hearing Anakin.
that
And
was
right up until that moment, I was not in it, and then all of a sudden, it hit me. It was there was his friend. There was his friend Anakin Skywalker, and we
right in the
were
feels.
we were feeling everything Obi-Wan was feeling. Like we were rooting for him, and then all of a sudden, oh, my friend Anakin, and we hear his voice, and it resonated. And it's still it's clear that that James Earl Jones talks differently than Hayden Christensen, and that was discernible. That's fine, because in that moment we were caught up in it, and we felt what Obi-Wan was feeling, and that was good. And from that moment until the end of the episode, it felt it was good. Endings matter to me, and it ended strong. I don't It's rough. It's rough to write shows where the outcomes of characters' fates. Uh, and I kind of wish they would move away from that. I kind of hope I mean, they're not going to, but I kind of hope that this is like the end of that, and they can now the Star Wars universe is a great setting for so many stories. I just don't want to see any more middle stories of characters. Like it was cool to see this. I'm glad. I'm gonna move on. I'm probably never gonna watch it again. It's just that fight with Obi-Wan and Vader. As much as we wanted to see it, the fact that we knew what was going to happen made it so there were no stakes, and we knew what was going to happen. Most likely, it was just one was going to be okay, and the other one was going to be okay. And that happens a lot in this show, and it pulls me away personally. And I get that these are legendary characters at this point, but give me something where you don't know anything. And if you're gonna tie someone and have it be like for one random episode and just a little like anyway, I do like the ending, and I had a sad thought. It was kind of sad that I don't, unless they come out with more episodes or something like this, that this was the last, the next time Princess Leia would see Obi-Wan, unless, she did again, maybe, which is entirely possible, would be when he dies, like in front of her eyes. She wouldn't see him again from this point forward, at least from now until more episodes of whatever comes out, probably, most
I
likely.
mean, they're talking about doing a second season. Obi-Wan,
Of course they are.
Ewan and Hayden are pushing for more.
Great.
So
Great. Yeah, money comes first. I get it. But it did end strong for me, and it was nice to. And then we got our. It all ended with our final "Hello there," which
Yeah.
you can't not love. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All that being said, ending was strong. Ending matters, and I was glad to have been sucked in at
Hello
least for the
there.
final moments.
It's funny that you were pulled out for that, whereas like that pulled me in, but the scenes with Riva and Owen and Beru and Luke, those pulled me away because I'm like, as of episode 4, for whatever recollection we knew, Luke barely had any. He barely knew anything about the Force or Jedi or Sith or anything. Whereas like here, someone with a literal lightsaber is chasing him, and it's
I mean,
just
I didn't
like
feel anything because we knew they were all going to be okay. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
but
So I was like, whatever. You know,
I don't mean that way. I just mean like that for me is my continuity issue, as opposed to Obi-Wan being able to throw rocks. I don't like cool, he can throw rocks. Like I didn't feel like that was any stretch of the imagination or whatsoever. He trained him, whatever. But like the issue that I had with more was like there was the whole thing with, I'm like, how does Luke not remember any of this? Or why isn't that a little bit more present in him when he's older? Like this was a pretty traumatic moment, being
Right.
chased by a Sith Lord or whatever, but being told that they're Tusken Raiders, but like why do they suddenly have a saber? Like it just that threw me off. But other than that, I mean, I loved this more than I liked the rest of the series. I feel for me, I liked that it ended with the hello there. I liked that. That was nice, but I kind of wanted that moment, that emotional moment with Vader and Obi-Wan to be the last scene. Like, end it there, because that would have resonated a little bit more. You know what I mean? Everything after that, for me, I was like, this is the conclusion I want. I don't give a fuck what happens with the third sister at this point, unless they kind of make it where, like, oh, she's going to get a spinoff, and we'll hear about her story away from the Skywalkers, away from the rest of the universe. I'd be like, okay, cool, that seems interesting to me. That's a show I'd go and watch, because it's not centered around the same 6 characters that we've been watching for the last 40 years. You know what I mean? So that would be more interesting than I'm going to get a second season of Obi-Wan, or I'm going to get more about Luke and Leia, or, Han Solo. Like, I'm just, like you were saying, give me something else other than the main core.
Yeah.
George?
Yeah, I agree with a lot. I think I'm like, of course, as usual, the middle of the two roads here when it comes to Smirch and Slice. Yeah, like I was like, when did I said it again? When did Obi-Wan become an Earthbender? Like, what? Okay, whatever. Like,
never done anything like
I feel
that
like
before, ever. Like,
I feel like I'm Joe Pesci in fucking Lethal Weapon, and then like, whatever. Okay. Like, just okay. I'm just gonna roll with it. All right, at this point, and then. And then I am fucking sick and tired of fucking space chases in Star Wars and fucking bullshit things that don't fucking make sense in space. I am like, you are literally just insulting the intelligence of your fucking viewers when it comes to space travel. I am so fucking sick and tired of the way Star Wars space physics work. Okay, I don't fucking understand it. How is it that they're in this giant fucking ship with all these fucking cannons, and they are the worst fucking shots in the whole entire fucking universe, dude? Like, I am just stop insulting my intelligence, dude. How is it that ship, when it fucking left, the little like. How is it you're missing so often, and how is it when the dropship left and you're shooting for the freaking like Imperial cruiser that you're missing Obi-Wan's ship so many times? Are you just like randomly firing? Are you even trying to fucking aim? How is it that you can't catch up to a fucking ship with your big ass Imperial cruiser and this tiny little transport ship, and it's got engine problems, and it can barely keep up with you apparently and outrun you? How is it that you aren't able to fucking catch them? I'm just so, and how is the space traveling even making any fucking sense? Like, I don't understand. Like, and they never I'm assuming they fixed the engines eventually, and then they got Princess Leia out of there. But it's like, what the hell's going on? Like, it doesn't matter, and then space travel with like Obi-Wan, and then suddenly hyper jumping. like, you know, hyperspace jump into like Tatooine and then like
a second.
2 minutes. Like I
Just don't even show the jump. Just cut to the planet and be like, cool, done. I'm happier with that than like I went in really fast. It's like,
yeah,
who
like
cares?
why did they not make like, man, I don't understand. Oh, like I don't understand a lot of like it just a lot of things. I understand like Dan's frustration. A lot of things are like swept under the rug, and it like to a certain extent so much now that it just like insults the intelligence of your like audience, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm like you just expect your audience to roll with the punches. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Like,
it's one thing
we're paying attention, you know?
yeah, like are we like, do you think we're not like watching, and do you think like it's just insulting the intelligence of like your audience? Like, give me a realistic reason. Like, I understand it's a plot device, them running from the ship, and they got to have a few minutes to say their goodbye. And like, shout out to freaking, there's some really great actors in there, and shout out to like, you know, Roken, who's Ice Cube's son, who also played Ice Cube in Straight Outta Compton. He was a cool character. I hope he gets a spinoff.
Sure.
Give him a fucking spinoff, because
Everyone
I
else
want to
does,
see
yeah.
how he like helps create
I
the
got a
rebellion.
spinoff.
Yeah, how he like leads a rebellion and how he becomes like a leader in the rebellion. I would love to see a show that stars about with him like being a rebel leader, because I think that there's room for that, and also there's stakes in that kind of show that is not necessarily, like Tim said, tied into the larger canon pantheon of Star Wars lore that we've had all these years.
These characters could still exist in the background of episode 4 or episode 9. Like, we don't know where these background characters go. They could live, they could die. You have no idea, because you don't ever hear about any of them in the movies whatsoever. All you get is Skywalker this, Palpatine that, Solo this. Like, it's all it ever is. And so give me these side characters, and I'm much more intrigued by it,
because we don't know their fates, and like we could like see like we could explore things that I would love that personally.
I mean, this is, you know, Disney Plus marketing is what this show should have been called.
I really love like you know, I do think I enjoyed the way it was tied down, and I completely agree. It like, I think there was emotional scenes that definitely happened between Obi-Wan. I love it when Obi-Wan started the fight. He did his classic Obi-Wan pose, but it's like it's full Obi-Wan, and that's the same pose he has in freaking Clone, like, you know, episode 1 to like Clone Wars, all 3 prequels. Then then you see him do it twice on Disney, you know, on both Disney series. He's like that in, you know, Clone Wars, the Disney movie, and he's also like that in Rebels as well. So it's like that pose is like that's quintessential. Like, that's when you know Obi-Wan means business, and you saw that like he came to that planet with the idea of like, this, we gotta end this now. Like, either I defeat Anakin once and for all, or I like leave it all on the battlefield here, because there's no alternative. And I understand, like, he saw this, like, the way that like they're gonna explain, quote unquote, like why Obi-Wan suddenly became more powerful is like he finally found, like, his character finally found, like, came full circle to an extent. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when he finally was able to see Qui-Gon Jinn, I think there was a lot of like his story arc came full circle. He found peace with himself. He let go of his shame, because in a way Anakin let him, like, released him from that burden, saying, Obi-Wan, like, I am here not because of you. I am here because I chose to be here. Like, I'm a master of my own decision. And in many ways, he released Obi-Wan from that burden, who I hate to say it, he's been holding on to since episode 1. Like, of like having to take care of this kid under his wing. Then. Yeah, having to care for this kid under his wing after Qui-Gon died, and having to carry this burden of watching this troublesome younger brother of him, and then seeing how he led his brother wrong, and like how he like disappointed like everyone, and how it turned so badly. This burden that he's been carrying, and this thing that he's been carrying all these years, like, he finally was released and came full circle and was finally with peace with himself. And it was in that final last moment that he was able to become, quote unquote, one with the Force, and like truly become a master Jedi, and finally saw his old friend Qui-Gon. And I think that brought like a tear to my eye, because it paid off his story. And if they ended here, I honestly, if I was Disney, I would be like, look, nothing against Hayden or Ewan, because we love Ewan, like, but like his story like is fine to end it here. You know, some of these other characters that are introduced could deserve a chance to have their story told.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen Tala get a
Yeah,
show
I felt
or
bad about
something,
that too.
but I feel
Like,
sad
she was
about
a great
that.
actress.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
was good. She was good.
I'm
I
I'm
can't.
going to
I
say
can't.
something controversial because I want to, and I know that we've discussed a lot of oversaturation, and I know some of your exact responses is what I'm about to say that they've technically already done in the new trilogy, but this would have been like a perfect moment, like after this show, to like reboot Star Wars. Like, don't continue off of 1978. Make A New Hope again and give me those movies, but cover up, but fill in all the gaps, fix the continuities, and then give me the story that we should have. Now, this is
They would 100% fuck it up.
yes, but if they had yes, because it's Disney. If it was someone else, it maybe could have worked. But if we hadn't just gotten basically 4, 5, and 6 again, this statement would have probably landed a little bit better. But the fact that like Force Awakens was A New Hope, and that Revenge of the Sith is Skywalker, whatever, the Rise of Skywalker, like if those two movies weren't already what I just said, like we maybe would have had an opportunity to do that, because they're already trying to erase 7, 8, and 9. So like, why not just fucking start over? Like leave 1, 2, and 3,
Man,
leave them
dude.
alone, and then just give me all new. Wipe the history, wipe the
Oh,
drive, and
man.
give me
Leave 4,
perfect
5, and 6
stuff.
alone. That's like the last, like.
They're great, and we can still watch them and enjoy them for what they are. But like continuity,
Yes,
canon, we can
I guess so.
change
I
them
don't
all,
know,
and
man.
and
It's
and you still get
too
the
much
reveal.
pressure, man. Too
I
much
know.
pressure. Like,
Never
I
gonna
guess I
happen.
would like. Yeah, I guess I would like to. I would
Never
like
would.
one thing that would be nice. Ewan McGregor over Alec Guinness. Yeah, that would be one nice thing.
I have no problem with Alec Guinness. I don't care if he didn't think that the movie was going to do well and all that crap.
I didn't
It's
think he was
fine.
that great either. I think he was kind of like listlessly there, and he was fine
Fine.
for his monologues, but everything else was just kind of,
It's,
oh yes,
it's only in half the movie,
it's
so
true.
whatever.
I don't know. I don't know.
Um,
In that moment, that final moment with Qui-Gon, you can't help but think and wonder, like, what would have happened
if
to
he could stay
Anakin
alive like
Skywalker.
everyone else,
No. What would have happened if Qui-Gon would have trained Anakin Skywalker? What kind of Jedi? I think he would have been like a Qui-Gon, like kind of more of a rogue type. He would have, Qui-Gon would have embraced Anakin's, overeagerness and used it to channel it, instead of Obi-Wan basically telling him, no, don't do it this way. Like, I think in Obi-Wan's constant training style of, your desire to win is too strong, Qui-Gon would have redirected the flow of water as opposed to build a dam, if that makes any sense. I think the constant kind of training style that from Obi-Wan was training him the Obi-Wan way, and that's not what Anakin needed. He needed someone to embrace his what Jedi might call flaws and use them as strengths, instead of saying, no, don't do this, no, don't do that. And uh you can't help but wonder what might have become of Anakin Skywalker. I mean, they do it in Marvel all the time. Give me alternate timelines, man. I would much rather see an alternate timeline version of Star Wars than like all this just the same shit over and over again in different stories. I would love to see a timeline with Anakin Skywalker being trained by Qui-Gon Jinn, who becomes the next big bad instead. I think that's much more fascinating in my head. Who cares? Like, I think that'd be cool to watch.
yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, what I did when I asked, and they kind of brushed on it, but they didn't really explain it. I was kind of wondering / hoping if they had to explain when the stormtroopers went from New Zealand accents to to non-New Zealand accents at some
They're
point.
they're different people.
It's
the-
not him anymore. It's a different clone they're using.
They're
Or
They're
is
no
it-
more clones.
They're not clones.
They're not clones at all.
Yeah, remember we saw the clone. We saw the old clone
I remember that's
soldier.
what I was gonna say. Yeah.
The clone's
but
problem is they age too fast. You know that.
Yeah,
right.
so
But
they
I thought
addressed it in 8.
I thought they were gonna say. I thought in the news, the sequel trilogy, they say we stopped using clones, implying that they were using clones in the original trilogy.
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I mean,
thought that's what they
again,
meant.
we're getting into continuity again,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
But
Okay,
like
that's what I
I'm
thought.
pretty sure the story is that I mean, and they address this in Rebels too, I believe, is that like the clones, because of their aging issue, like they have a very short lifespan. Like they age out of like military service really fast because they have that growth acceleration that made them like adults within like half the time, and then or within a matter of like 3 or 4 years they became full grown adults. And because of that, like they're no longer, majority of the clones that were made during the Clone Wars are no longer like young enough and fit enough to be troopers. They have, and the growth apparently is bad for them because they have like severe, you know, problems with their bodies because of the
bone structure and all
acceleration.
that
Yeah,
crap.
bone structure, all those things that you would think that come with genetic engineering defects. So I think the vast majority of clones are no longer in service up to the point of, because it's now what, 10 years or so or 9 years or so after the first original episode, so most of them are all aged out already.
yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway.
Plus, it would put all of there's like a in Clerks they have that conversation about the blowing up of the Death Star and everything like that, and they talk about like the free contractors versus the people who have signed up to be in the Empire. So I'm like,
That's funny.
it would put that to bunk. It doesn't matter.
There is that funny scene though when Obi-Wan sees that clone trooper, you know, on that planet,
Yeah.
begging for money, and there's the question of, is there like a recognition? Like, does that trooper know that that's Obi-Wan? Because that trooper is actually
Question
part of.
was that Rex?
No, it wasn't Rex, but it was. He does have the right insignia to be under the same same battalion that Anakin led.
Cody?
So because of the fact that Anakin and you know and Obi-Wan worked so closely together during the Clone Wars, so people would say it's unfathomable that clone wouldn't know like one of his commanding officers. You know, by so they wonder if there's that like twinkle of recognition.
Slice. I mean, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like Cody is with Obi-Wan at that planet where he fights General Grievous when Order 66 is
Yeah, I know.
executed.
Mhm.
I saw.
Okay, so I don't know what Cody's fate was. They don't really talk about it.
They interviewed. God, I can't remember the actor's name because it's the same guy as Boba Fett, right? Same.
Wait, what?
Actor?
Don't
They're
the,
all
the-
Boba
but,
Fett.
but don't
Right,
we
so-
see the
but they
clones in
interviewed-
Rebels as
they
well?
interviewed the actor, and the actor kind of loosely hinted at it, but it wasn't. But like, it wasn't ever really said in the script if it was or wasn't Rex or Cody or any of the main Clone
What
Wars.
about the
But
guys in
I
Rebels,
think he
though?
did that because he just wanted to.
Wait, Cody comes
Do
back in
more.
Rebels, I thought.
Oh, he does. Oh, I
have no idea.
Yeah, Cody comes back in Rebels. You see them, and the
Okay.
clones are all old with beards in Rebels.
Okay.
Nice.
I saw some.
So
of them. I
they
didn't
do
know
come
were
back.
Cody.
Yeah, I think Cody comes back and Rex comes back. All those guys come back because right now, obviously, there's like the Bad Batch. So you know some of the clones like did turn. Like at the end of Ahsoka, at the end of Clone Wars, like Ahsoka, whoever clone was with Ahsoka actually did turn good, and that's how the Bad Batch and all of them got away. So you know that like some of them were able to fight the programming. As far as Cody goes, I'm not quite sure I remember, but I do know that in Rebels you do see some of the clones again, and they like they're good.
Cool.
So
I think it's Cody.
with this show coming to an end, we have a little reprieve from Star Wars in that there isn't anything until August. So we've got a month off of Star Wars. It's Andor, and honestly, I don't know if I'm even going to watch the show. I may eventually see it, but it's the one that I'm just like, I don't care about Cassian Andor. Like, cool, I guess. It's like a prequel to Rogue One, and I'm like, I don't I don't care. And then, you got animated stuff coming out in fall, and then Mando in February of 2023. So honestly, again, not to harp on this oversaturation, I think it'd be nice to have a bit of a reprieve and breather from Star Wars before we just have to then, not have to, but and inevitably talk about more Star Wars. I think people need to digest everything that they've just gotten between all of the shows that they've done. I'm happy to take a break from it for a little while. I'm excited to see Thor next month. I'm happy to get back into the comic book world again. With Miss Marvel really kind of has brought me back into it, which I'm happy about. I'm happy to read more of my comic books. I'm gonna read Saga again. If anybody hasn't read that, it's amazing. Definitely read that. So it'll be nice to where we don't have 4 or 5 shows in a row where all we're talking about is Star Wars. Since May 4th, we've had Star Wars on almost every episode. So I'm happy to, except for the wrestling one, I'm happy to have a little break from it for a little while. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Obviously, everybody knows that. I just love things, so why not? Small bit of news before we call it today. Ritter. What's her name? She's back in talks to reprise her role as Jessica Jones. What the fuck's her first name?
Kristen Ritter.
Kristen Ritter has
Dude,
officially.
I mean, everyone knew
started
that
the
was it. She took a picture of Michael Colton, dude. Like,
I know, but it's nice to see.
and they said
that
they like, oh, we just live in the same neighborhood, and you're like, you mean
it's cool.
Manhattan?
It's cool to see Vincent D'Onofrio getting back into shape to do more Kingpin stuff. So
Absolutely.
The future is kind of bright for Marvel, and I'm excited to see what they're doing.
And I want all the Defenders to come back except for Iron Fist.
Well, I'm okay with Iron Fist coming
Recast
back,
Iron
but not
Fist.
just like not with his.
Recast him.
He doesn't need his own show. Just maybe put him in like a few Luke Cage episodes.
Yeah, just recast him though. I don't.
Yeah,
care
it's please. I mean, like I was like whatever. Like maybe it's not all the actor's fault, but then you hear like the whole thing about how he refused to train, and how they had to use doubles for almost every scene that he was in for fight. And I'm just like, dude, if you're gonna be in a Marvel role, you train. Like that's what like comes with the territory.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
Replace him with Henry Cavill. I'm just kidding.
No, not for that.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's hilarious. I mean, though Henry Cavill could do anything, so I wouldn't be mad.
No, not at all. Fuck it, let's do it. Yeah, I'm man. I got to mention this. I am I'm upset because of the
reversal.
Well, it's DC, so
okay.
It's not really a role reversal. We all despise DC, but I'm mad. Warner Brothers is just needs to stop with Ezra Miller has just been in the news again and is just ruining my ability to want to see the Flash movie, because I want to see Michael Keaton. I want to see Batgirl. I want to see Supergirl. I want to see how they reset the timeline. And now I'm like, you creepy, weird piece of shit. Like, just stop.
I like Ezra Miller too. I thought he was good, and now it's like
it's so in the air whether I'm probably going to see it. I don't know if I'm going to see it in theaters. Maybe I won't give them my money there. I'll wait for it to come out in home release, something like that. But I don't know. But I
download it illegally.
I'm probably nobody does that. I do not condone downloading illegal things. I'm probably going to see it in theaters because I have to see Michael Keaton on the big screen again.
Yeah,
like I can't not.
That's enough.
It's hard to not do that. So, DC's screwed. That's all I'm going to say. Warner Brothers is fucked. They need to just stop making movies for a little while and then come back, and maybe people won't care as much. But who knows?
Start over in Robert Pattinson's universe.
I just mean in general, between like Harry Potter and DC and like everything. They have the most controversial actors under their helm, and they're slowly getting rid of them. And I'm like, good, but if they hadn't delayed Flash like 6 times, they could have gotten through this. Like if it came out earlier, but it's really gonna fuck up their box office.
And now with Amber Heard and Aquaman 2 next year, it's just
everything is fucked.
I bet you the internet boycotts Aquaman 2.
Who knows?
I do
This has
understand
nothing
that.
to poor Jason Momoa.
I know, dude. That's the
This
thing.
has nothing to do with him.
Like whatever you're doing to like poor Jason.
Don't
Momoa,
do this
dude,
to him.
doesn't deserve any of this. Yeah, I
My
don't know.
Stargate
Maybe not.
brethren.
Maybe the good rep that Jason Momoa has with everyone is enough to.
He's
I mean,
funny.
the nerds are gonna go
He's funny.
see movies.
Yeah, that's true.
They are. It's just Aquaman.
He might be like the only thing I like about the DC universe. I mean, I like Gal Gadot too, but honestly, the last Wonder Woman was terrible. So,
Did you
and
see
I'm not saying Aquaman was
the
great,
first
but I just
Aquaman
like
wasn't
him
that
as a human
the
being
first
so
Aquaman
much.
was not a good movie by any
No, it was not.
means.
It was not.
It was fine.
But
It
I like
wasn't
him
bad.
as a
Barely
human being, so
passable.
I'm okay with
It was
it.
fine. Did anybody
Like-
see they had the Justice League picture where they're all standing on the cliff and it's like all 6 of them or 5 of them, how many there are, and then below it has Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa, and they're the only ones standing
Yeah.
on the cliff because like Affleck's out, Ezra Miller's out.
Cavill's currently back in. I
who?
don't. Cavill is
Cavill
coming
Smirch,
back
I
never-
cannot believe.
Cavill, here's the fun thing. Cavill said it himself. He's like, I never officially said I'm done with Superman ever. Not
Which,
once
whatever.
and everything. Everyone else has been saying this, and he's like, look, we just haven't decided to make another movie yet. Like, I was busy when they did the cameo in Shazam. I was never saying no to any of this. I was filming Mission Impossible and doing all these other things and Witcher, and like he's like, I never said I wasn't done with this character. I love being Superman. Like, he said that verbatim pretty much, and I'm like, yeah, cool. So he could come back very well, but I think at this point it's just wash
You know
your hands
what?
of literally everything.
I cannot believe you
and
guys
just,
haven't
like-
finished watching Peacemaker, because it
I have.
honestly is
I
the
have.
Sorry,
Smirch.
just
You
me.
need to watch it. It is honestly like the
Yeah.
best
Great
part,
show.
best DC thing I've seen
Ever.
like so
Period.
far. Like
Yeah.
You mean
I like it
mixture?
way. I like it way more than Rob Pattinson. That's for
What?
sure.
It was more fun than that.
It was way more entertaining than Rob Pattinson.
Him?
Yeah.
Better,
It was
better
way-
than the Rob Pattinson movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Peacemaker
Whoa.
might be like the best thing
Warner Brothers
DC's
has
made.
done.
That it's
Yeah,
better
best
than
Whoa.
any
thing
freaking
since
Harley Quinn
Dark
movie.
Knight.
It's better than any. It's better than any of the what's it called the
Whoa.
the
Suicide
DC
Squad.
version of the Expendables.
For once, I would agree with George.
It's the
Wow.
best
Say
DC thing they've made. It really
Yeah.
is the best DC thing they made.
Okay.
And I say that
okay.
because I
Jesus
love
Christ.
the Pattinson movie, but like even I've seen it twice, and it's slow going.
Yeah,
on that
it's
second
fucking
watch.
I can
boring.
see that. Like, well, whenever you know like the outcomes of mystery movies, they're never as fun the
Well,
first time around.
I
and I
didn't-
understand
Well, and
that.
like-
I had no
biggest-
zero investment in the Rob Pattinson movie,
Yeah.
but this Peacemaker is fucking hilarious, dude.
You
It
have
is
zero
like,
investment in the Rob Pattinson movie?
yeah, don't really care for it. It's all right. It's good. It's fine for what it is, but I didn't like feel invested in it, and I thought it was just okay. And
What?
the slow burn
There's
kind of
very-
fucking is right.
There is no
Tim's
middle
right
ground
about.
with this movie.
Yeah,
You
It's
either
like-
in or you're out.
I mean, it was just so like it was more like for me that movie was just like there weren't enough flaws for me to like complain. Like it was just very
he didn't-
solid all
there
around.
weren't enough
was
flaws, but
he
there
was
really
Indiana
wasn't anything
Jones.
for me to write home about either.
He didn't contribute to the movie or to the plot whatsoever. He was Indiana
Batman?
Jones. All the things happened
Oh,
around
no.
him. He did
Interesting.
nothing. He solved these riddles after the people died. Like he didn't stop the murders. He didn't do anything to prevent anybody. He like it all just sort of fell into place. And I'm like,
He-
greatest
he helped,
detective,
he
I
helped
guess.
the Riddler murder Falcone.
Right? Like, like
Whatever.
Yeah.
who's the good guy?
The
Like,
movie
you
was
know,
all
so
right.
I could pick it apart like crazy.
Eh.
Cinematically, it's beautiful. The fight scenes were awesome, and
It
I
was a
fucking
slow
loved
burn.
it. I would love to redo a Batman review because my internet was crap and you can't hear any of the points that I made during that
was slow
fucking
burn.
podcast. But it was I did love the movie. Don't get me wrong, but I could pick it apart until.
I'm telling
Have
you.
you seen the pitch meeting for it?
Freaking, and not only that, there's so many funny things about Peacemaker. They have like at the end of they always have these post-credit scenes that are like not part, just like you could tell they were just riffing and like they never made it to the final cut, but they're like, okay, we'll just throw it up in the after credits, and this like
it's fun.
goes back to a random scene that they were doing, and it's like
Cena,
an
man.
extended version of the random scene that they had. It's that shit is like it's just John Cena being John Cena, like
It's fantastic.
goofy ass John Cena. It's pretty fucking funny actually.
Yeah, more season 2. I want it.
I cannot wait. Like that's the only thing I really care about in DC is Peacemaker now because it's
I kind
that
of
fucking
agree with
good.
you. because none
It's
of it
fucking
else
hilarious. I love it.
none of the rest of it's going to matter because they're just going to reset everything.
Yeah, and there's like
Are they though?
They will.
Haven't yet.
They're going
They
to.
haven't yet.
They're going to realize they don't have a choice.
What do you mean they're going to realize? Like they should have done it like
Right, but they haven't realized.
3 months
so-
ago.
Smirch, you need to
will.
watch Peacemaker, and we're gonna do a Peacemaker episode since we're taking a break from
Yeah.
Star Wars.
All right.
All right, we're cutting
When I'm
it.
all salty, you guys said it was way better than the Brad Pattinson movie, aka my favorite Batman movie. But we'll
I
see.
mean, yeah, it's
Batman
just
Returns is
much
still
more
better,
fun to
but okay.
watch. It's entertainment at its finest. Yeah.
I think.
All right.
I think we had to. I think what we really need to have is a full-on Batman cast and really debate these movies. Like really get in there with the teeth and the.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
I
I'm
don't know.
always all right with
I feel
Batman.
like me and George have been like teasing it for like a long time, but you like barely brushed the surface last time.
Oh,
Yeah, because
you
he's
couldn't even
offended by
hear-
the fact
I
that I
couldn't
think
even
Batman
speak
Returns
last
is
time,
like
so
the
yeah,
best
I couldn't-
Batman.
I couldn't even chime in. All right. This has been fantastic. We obviously have opinions on all of these matters. We will be watching The Boys. Either we're going to do them by episode or just compile the last 3 or 4 episodes all in one. We'll see how that goes. Stay tuned for next week. I think we might do it, folks. We may actually finally get to Legend of Korra. Who the fuck knows? It may never happen. It's like our white whale. We're just going to keep chasing it until eventually it drives us mad. But thank you all for coming. Make sure to give this a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Check out all of the Modern Nerd socials. You can catch us on Spotify, The Modern Nerd, all one word, Instagram, Twitter, and then follow me, SirSlice13 on Twitch if you want to join in and chat with us while we are playing some Stardew Valley for the most part is what we're doing. So it's a good way to get in on the conversations, and I do those much later in the day, so you might actually be around to do it. Other than that, Smirch, where they find you, sir?
Merchandise on Instagram.
It's merchandise.
I might
We'll
even
post
post once in
once
a
every
while.
6 months. And as always, our gracious host, tell them where they find you.
You can find me everywhere at GJC327.
Check out his Twitch, check out his YouTube, some great instructional videos. Otherwise, we have been The Modern Nerd, and thank you for watching.